It's here, boys.
Boys.
What's happening?
We got a record.
It's out.
Surreal.
Oh, did we release that already?
March 12th, just to timestamp it, is the release of our debut album, Different Dimension. It's finally here. It's been over a year in the making. We're so stoked to finally have this record out that we can enjoy with everybody. And we're here having a drink. Cheers, boys.
Cheers.
So, yeah. I mean, we started the writing process already back in 2022. So, it's been over a year in the making. Really, we just started getting into things here at the studio, I guess. We had put the Wasted Life EP out back in 2019, I want to say, and then
22. Wasted
yes,
Life.
22. We did put it out in 22. That's right.
Yeah, was it
I was like, I
like
think I'm
beginning
missing
of
a few
fall,
years.
right?
Yeah.
So we shot that
October-ish.
Fallen video in October.
Yeah.
on
that sounds
Halloween.
right.
Yeah, and I think I remember us just compiling a list of ideas to go down to Kentucky with. Yeah, we went down in January to whip up some songs and just kind of see where things were sitting. And I know we revisited Fire and Fly from here on this album just to give it a little more justice.
Just to backtrack to when we released, or between the time we released Wasted Life to starting pre-production on this record, we linked up with John Lahan, our new manager, and he, being a guy that's been in a touring band his whole life, obviously knows a lot about songwriting and production and stuff. So when we were starting to compile ideas for the Different Dimension album, once we got, a handful, 10 ideas or so, then we scheduled time to go down to his studio down in Kentucky and really grind out the song writing process with him, just some fine-tuned stuff.
That was like super new too, because we've always written together, like full band, all in the room, everything turned up to 10. And he had us just acoustic guitars. I was literally drumming on my thigh, it was super, super odd, but I think it definitely helped us put together these songs in definitely a more cohesive manner.
I remember it was like 10 songs that were pretty close, and then we had a riff or two that turned into Now or Never. Yeah, I liked how we didn't have anything more than a bass with like a little lunchbox amp and acoustic guitar, little thigh drums, and just like, it's a good way to tell if a song sucks or not. Like, can you pull it off with your thighs or not? Like,
Well,
so,
yeah. what was important to John for us, like, yeah, even though we're a hard rock band and we write hard rock songs, it's still about the song. So if there's not a good song there, it doesn't matter how heavy or how soft you make it. At the end of the day, it's about the song. So that's kind of the lesson he was trying to teach us during that session, was like, all right, let's strip this down. Let's really dive into the essence of the song, the melodies, the chord progressions, the changes from verse, pre-chorus, chorus, that whole thing, and just make a really good song. And then everything after that, the guitars, the drum fills, the bass lines, it's all just icing on the cake. So that was kind of certainly a new writing experience for us. And I think you can hear it as far as like the album as a whole just has a little bit more mature feel to it, I guess you could probably say. I guess
I think we cut out a lot of the bullshit that didn't need to happen in the studio. Like, how should the song go? Should it be a double chorus there or what have you? And we still spent probably like 15 times more in the studio regardless of that fact. So we got to dive into what if we had a violin player come in for a few days, or I don't know what else. Like, I don't know, we had like the choral parts we did where we were all singing in the room and like singing 100
for an hour
times
and
and
ever.
let's stand here, there.
My little screech and chains. That
Yeah.
I was just goofing around, and then you guys were like, "Oh yeah, all right, let's do it."
Well, there was a lot of off the cuff stuff, but we had worked out a majority of, like you said, except for maybe a fill here or there where it was like off the cuff in the studio. Wow, we need to use that.
Some guitar solos and stuff.
Right, but other than that, we basically had most song structures down just so we could whip them out real quick.
For efficiency, yeah.
Yeah, we're like, oh, let's make this as cheap as we could. Let's not waste time here.
Right.
But yeah, it was great. We got to spend so much time exploring and trying new sounds, and also be comfortable being at Essential Sessions.
Yeah.
Where we are now. I mean, this is our home base, so we're here for like 3 months nonstop, and
yeah, we rehearse
good.
here and we write here, so recording here was just, another day at the studio. And we had spent a lot of time with drums or drum miking for this record, because collectively, and I know Colin as well, we've kind of had this conversation many times. We just didn't feel like we were quite getting the drum sounds or Colin's, like live drum feel that we get. We haven't really captured that on a record.
Yeah. The balance of like artificial sound that has the drive we're looking for, but also sound real, and it's a tough line to balance and get a happy medium, or it wasn't a happy medium, it was real. But,
well, yeah, we spent a day in here just miking the drums before you even hit a drum. Like,
yeah, I think, didn't I set up even like 3 days ahead of time or something, and then you guys just came in and did your nerd stuff.
Yeah, I remember it was me, Bert, and Brett, and it was just, let's try a mic here, let's try a mic here. We wanted to get room. We wanted to get room mics up so it was nice and live feeling, and then we wanted the overheads to give it a decent spread as well, as far as your stereo spread for the drums. And I think this time we finally actually got a really good, tight, live sounding drum recording.
Yeah.
So yeah, January we went down and did pre-production with John down at his studio, and then February we started tracking drums, and just pretty much February through
end of May,
beginning of June, May.
We were tracking, and then Brett rolled right into the mixing process, and by the end of June, and we had the album mixed and mastered. And
yeah, pretty much I think what I remember is like 3-4 times a week we're here for 3 months straight, with the exception of like going on the road for Country Fest and then coming back dog ass tired and getting back to work. And yeah, it's crazy that it's finally here after all this time. Like, some of these songs have been cooking, like we said, like since the inception of the band. Like, Fire was the first song we wrote, right?
Yeah, that was like one of the first guitar riffs I ever wrote.
I feel like Fire is everybody's intro to the band too, because like that was the first one that I tracked with you guys. I'm pretty sure that's the first one that you learned with us.
Well, and it's it
was.
We wrote it in Avery's basement. Let's whip that fricker together.
That's the first original song that I played with you guys on stage too, prior to being in the band.
Yeah, that's right. We just had to jam one night.
I said, well, I know Fire. I can play that.
Yeah, then you laid down a badass guitar solo on it on this record.
Well, it needed one. It was missing.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And so Fly From Here is another, I think, I could be wrong, but I think I remember Fire, Lonely, and then Bleed, and then Fly From Here. I think in that order would have been the first 4 songs we wrote, but we felt the need to revisit just because of like the energy that those songs bring live, and then people go listen to it online. It's like we just didn't feel like it had that like, oh, cool, they're gonna go check it out later on. We need to record that better because we were very young at that time.
Well,
and
yeah, I mean, Clay was in the Record Now program with Brad back then, and actually, Brad just called me for a session drummer for that. So
yeah.
then kind of the rest was history.
Yeah.
But I mean, we were so green back then when we recorded that, and it's been what 6, 7 years now.
Yeah, I think I was freshman in college when we first took a stab at that.
Yeah, that was like
I was
2016.
playing bass for about a whopping year.
I met
Yeah.
you guys in 17.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it was
Yeah.
2017.
So at
Yeah.
16, I would have been a freshman.
Well,
in
and those
college,
two
and-
songs are fan favorites at all our shows. You know, those were always two songs that everybody liked. So it just seemed necessary for us, at least, to really sonically, you know, give it its due.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Like, so then next song, I think that would have been like an earlier inception was like the riff I had for Diseased.
Disease was an early one.
That started with when lockdown first happened and COVID. I was just chilling in my room a lot in St. Paul and just nothing to do. And I have like a bunch of videos like of me trying to like figure out how to like get the timing of that riff, and it was a good 2-hour headache. But that song just sat on the shelf for a while until we were ready to record because Wasted Life is pretty much ready at that point.
Yeah. Well, I remember you had showed me that song, like, I think even before we had started recording Wasted Life, and I'm not really necessarily sure why that one didn't make the cut for that EP. I just don't think we ever actually spent any time writing it.
I think we spent too much time
Well,
trying to fine tune the rest of that EP because I do feel like I remember you having that riff.
I bet it was
before.
I bet my guess was it's in B flat standard.
Oh, that could have been part of it.
Who's got a guitar that's in that tuning? And then
'Cause
CJ
I
was there and he's
remember-
like, I'm not scared. I don't know.
yeah. I remember when you showed me that riff, that was one of those times like sometimes I hear a song and I get like a lyric line in my head right away, and sometimes it'll take me months. But I remember that one was one where like I sat down at your studio desk in your room and you were showing me, and I was like, I had a chorus idea like instantly, and then I had some verse lines, and I was like, oh, this could be a cool song. And I don't know why it never made the EP, but it fits really good on this record.
album. Yeah. Well, I probably just need a little more time to learn how to scream a little bit, but getting that figured out. But yeah,
Well, and
some lyrics come fast, like this one here.
yeah,
Oh, Whiskey Lemonade.
Oh, segues.
well,
Smooth.
Whiskey Lemonade was a funny song because that was a riff that CJ had this chord progression he had shared with us fairly early on in the writing process for the album, and we were all kind of a little unsure about it. And not that we didn't like it necessarily. I don't think Colin, maybe it wasn't Colin's favorite, but
well, he brought it to us by calling it the John Mayer song, and I was like, well, that's not what we sound like. So how's this gonna work? But in the end, it turned out great. And I don't know, how do we get it over to Whiskey Lemonade? Was I just whining one night? And
yeah, we were practicing it at the studio here, and flushing it out, and you were just kind of like, I think we were getting, sometimes during the writing process, every once in a while we get a little frustrated with each other, you know, just because we're not seeing eye to eye on certain ideas. And I think that night you were just kind of getting frustrated with the song in general because you thought it wasn't like heavy enough for us.
probably like the 7th or 9th time we played it too.
Major keys will do that to a guy.
Yeah.
Down part.
That's what it was.
because
Or
we
the
couldn't find
yeah.
why the second verse wasn't really
It wasn't
coming
hitting,
together.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden, it was after the actual Whiskey Lemonade talk that we come up with that drum part. All of a
Yeah, it
sudden, we
was.
needed to break down those drums and
Mm-hmm.
formed into
Yes.
What was that saying? Like,
So it was like, yeah. So Colin were kind of going back and forth a little bit, and Colin Gibbs is just like, I don't know. We're like, a whiskey Coke, and this song is more like a whiskey lemonade.
Oh, that's right.
Or it probably sounded more like we're whiskey
Guys
Coke,
said we
and
were
that sounds like whiskey
straight.
lemonade.
Whiskey straight.
No, you said a whiskey.
Oh,
Yeah,
all
maybe.
right, I believe you.
Whiskey Coke. And this is
Probably
more of a
drinking whiskey
lemonade.
straight when I said it.
Probably.
Wow.
So then, yeah, it was funny because then after you said that, like I kind of stored that in the back of my mind, and then like that night I couldn't really sleep because that was one of the last songs on the album that I didn't have lyrics for yet, and we were
Right.
coming down the pipeline to start tracking, and it was driving me nuts. So that next morning, I was making breakfast and just thinking about whiskey lemonade. There's got to be
Yeah,
a way to
gotta be
make
something
this
there.
work. And then finally, like a couple lines, like the first two lines for the first verse came. And once I got those first two lines, it was just like, I wrote the whole song in like 15 minutes, and I texted it to you guys in the group. I was like, I think I finally got it. And you're like, yep, that's it.
Oh, yeah,
I didn't
right.
think you were serious at first when you sent it either, because you called it whiskey lemonade. I was like, okay, yeah, all right, I get it. I was a jerk last night.
Well, when I met him, I thought that right away. I'm like, oh yeah, that's it. I mean, that's so.
Well, and it was just like
Or-
tough. The reason that song I was struggling so much writing lyrics for is because I'm used to writing like angry lyrics because we write angry-ish music, and this was like a fun, like upbeat kind of party song, and that was kind of out of my comfort zone as far as writing lyrics and melodies for. But it was that song is turned into now one of our favorite songs on the album.
For sure.
If not our
Across the
favorite
board.
refreshments when we're listening to the
Yeah.
album.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a lesson just to not be afraid of anything. Like a song can start somewhere weird and just turn into be like the
Mhm.
best little surprise. Like
If the idea is there, it's definitely like it's just crucial to follow through and at least see what's there.
kind of like that documentary you see of like Avenged Sevenfold self-titled when Jimmy is writing a little piece of heaven. Like,
Yep.
what in the fuck is this
Yeah,
thing?
yep.
But it's like, trust it. And it's my favorite song by them. It's
Oh yeah.
Well, and
odd.
when we were down in Kentucky at John's studio and we were working on the layout of that song, that was also around the time Monty was joining the band. So we were talking to
right.
John about Monty and how he's got a Southern rock influence and all that stuff. So like all those little transition licks and stuff was kind of, John pushing us like, this probably isn't going to be like, this is a song that you guys can have fun with creatively. You don't have to necessarily try and keep it so in the box, kind of go Allman Brothers on it. And that's what we ended up doing with a lot of those licks and stuff, is kind of brought a little more Southern rock influence into it. And I think that's kind of what really made it pop for us, and then kind of got the wheels turning from there.
yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, it was a weird time for me. You guys were all going to Kentucky. I was kind of just getting on the end, and I you guys actually brought a lot of the ideas back to me
Yep.
and said, here's what we're kind of working on, and me and CJ sat and wrote a couple parts from there, and it just it helps writing with someone like CJ too, because he can change his mindset of what he's writing. It can, if you say, hey, I need a Southern rock thing, bam, he's got a Southern. If you say, hey, I need a jazz thing, he's got a jazz thing. It's
Yeah, his way to articulate it on the fretboard is
right. Changes
like at the drop of a hat.
Exactly.
He's
So it makes it really cool too, because he can help with parts that I was stuck on, as far as like, oh, what should I do here?
right.
Mhm.
And he
Yeah.
snap of a hat or
Wow. Yeah, we definitely have been no stranger to. Sometimes it takes a little heave and a hoe, but like we sprinkle in weird time signatures, or get a little more metal than we're typically known for. I don't know how you word it, but we're definitely like just trying to push our limits for sure. And this
Stay
album's
out
a
of-
good reflection of that, because I mean, we got the heaviest of the heavy we've ever written, the lightest major key pop songs, and we got little
Yep.
indie kind of whatever the heck goodbye is.
I think that's
You
something
know?
that like
Yeah,
always
Songs
made
to cry
me,
to.
almost made me
Yeah,
kind of
it's
like
an anthem.
uncomfortable early in the band because like we've always kind of had this vibe of like whatever you want to write is what we're gonna write, and that has led me to not always have a great answer when someone's like, "Oh, what genre of rock are you?" You know, and the longer that we do it, the more fun it is to kind of diversify
Yeah.
it, and the less I'm worried about like strapping ourselves into one category.
And
Well,
oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that's the luxury of streaming now. You know, streaming has its pros and cons, and we can argue until we're blue in the face whether or not it's good or bad. But the luxury of streaming is you don't necessarily have to be so confined to a box as you kind of used to have to be when you relied strictly on radio to get your music out into the world. Now you can, you know, if we want to do a heavy hard rock tune, we can do a heavy hard rock tune. If we want to do a little more of a southern rock style tune, we can do that, or something that's got a little more of an indie feel. Like at the end of the day, all the songs on the record sound like Rogue Royal. So, you know, they might have different flavor on different ends of the spectrum, but, you know, your box has grown because you're not just here. Now you can pull from all these different influences
Yeah.
and
I like
allow
when,
them to come through, you know.
I like how once it's finally fleshed out and like we know what the final product is, I think that's like the best representation of it. But those weird niche thoughts. Oh wow, those weird niche songs always are the most exciting to play when they come up in the set list. Like when I see Chains, I'm like, ooh, let's freaking go. Or
Well,
Whiskey Lemonade's fun as hell too because it's just licks on licks
Well,
and a lot of energy. And
like Clay said, though, I mean, it's really you three that bring that original sound. Like, no matter what song it is, you hear the bass lines, you hear the drum parts, you hear the vocal tone. You're like, I know who that is.
yeah.
You know, it
Yeah, but
really-
I don't think you should take yourself out of that either. I think
Well-
that's one of the things that like makes this a fun band is that we all have our different like.
Well-
you like gent, I like, you know, I was a punk rocker when I was a little kid.
yeah,
You know, you guys grew up listening to Skynyrd, so
Right.
yeah, you fit right in,
Yeah.
Monty.
mixing that all together is a lot of fun.
Your chin underside fits where Rifki leaves off, so you just jumped right into the band.
You complete me.
Oh, that's hilarious. So this past Saturday, we had our album release show, a hometown release show up in Sock Center at the Next Door Bar, and we played through the record live, start to finish, as
Home
the
field
track listing
advantage,
is
brothers.
on the album. And I think it was just like doing it live and feeling those songs in order live on stage. Like, I think it just kind of brings full circle the fact that there is different stuff on the album, but nothing felt out of place live at all. Like the show just, I don't know, it seemed like it flowed maybe better than what I was envisioning, I guess.
Yeah, because there's random. It goes.
'Cause
It
the
has
first
really
6
high
songs on
highs
the
and low
album-
lows.
I was
like,
gonna say it's like a story almost. It's
I
like
heard- yeah,
you know, where you're having your climaxes and your downfalls, and then back. You know, it runs through and flows through.
I got a lot of good feedback off that, but there's I like that we did that though because there's a lot of people that did pick up the album early because we had the physical copy there, and I mean, there's the way that media is consumed these days is really challenging because it's short. You know, reels are more popular than long YouTube videos, and being able to listen to an album front to back, that's a lot of times the way that artists intend it. And we gave them a sample of that live. So like, hopefully that just like makes people want to, I mean, I've seen some comments today that
Mhm.
some dude listened to it twice front to back because of like what we did.
Yeah.
And
Well, we
I'm
kind of
excited
force
about that.
people to do that, you know. If you
Yeah.
just buy the
There was-
CD,
there was
it's
no
just kind
skip
of whatever.
button.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can't
Yeah.
hit skip when it's live. It's like, here's the album, you know.
Yeah.
And I think it was good for us to do that too. Just kind of a little bit of a, all right, there it is, you know.
Yeah, almost a stamp right on it saying here it's done. You know.
Well, and we actually, other than maybe the Tuesday before, but I don't even think then did we actually run the album like front to back.
We did that Tuesday before, but
Okay, just the
but
once.
we stopped and worked on anything that we needed to work on
Transitions
during it.
And
It
I didn't
wasn't
have
just
my preset
right.
metronome there either, so that took more time. So yeah, it was a lot of fun to just kind of cruise through it and kind of be in the album again.
Fun
Yeah.
for your ankles because I didn't start right away.
Well, yeah, that was an unanticipated 30 seconds worth of 16th
Yeah.
notes. But
If you guys weren't there, my wireless wasn't wirelessing, and
It
this
wasn't even
song
attached to
started,
you.
and
Well,
and
I do remember
so Rifki just had to blast for until I was ready.
16 notes
and then we
for
get
5 minutes.
3 seconds into
break
the
drum
first
sticks.
verse, I broke a stick, and then about
I didn't know that.
4 seconds later, I broke a second stick. Literally in the first verse. That was interesting. but
The little Rifki that could
rock and roll, baby.
Well, I do remember there being some sort of a conversation towards the end of when we were recording, when we were throwing around ideas for how we wanted the track listing on the record to be. And I remember we were kind of talking about the Nightmare album, Avenged Sevenfold, because that record, it starts off and like the first 5-6 songs are just in your face, heavy,
Yep.
hard
just
rock
brutal.
tunes, and then from there it kind of drifts off into more melodic songs.
Mhm.
It has more dynamics, and that was we were kind of step back and looking at the catalog of songs that we had, and we kind of had a similar trajectory of tunes as far as that kind of flow of record goes. So we kind of took that influence and ran with it, because the first 6 songs on our record, really from Assassin through, even Now or Never, are just kind of right in your face, pumping hard rock songs. And then we transition into Whiskey Lemonade, and it kind of just ebbs and flows the rest of the album from there.
It's cool. We got a lot of tunings, a lot of variety, a lot of, I don't know, good dynamics in the album. And
Well, there you heard it. We're as good as Avenged Sevenfold. So, M Shadows, if you guys want to come and tour and open for us, you're totally welcome to anytime.
If you want to play the next door bar at Sock Center, we know a guy.
Well, since we're on the songs on the album, what's your guys' favorite song?
What's your favorite
you
song?
first.
Ooh, see, and this
smelt
one
it,
was
you
hard for
dealt
me.
it.
This one was really hard because
You sh-
I really always leaned towards Whiskey Lemonade once it was finished. I was like, wow, because that's my style of music.
That's
I
when you
listen to.
finished, right?
So, but it's funny. Chains was really the one that caught me. That I'd have to say that's my favorite song on the record. I've played it the most through the whole recording process, and even after when it was finalized, it's the one song that I always go to. And
What I like about Chains is like, even though that song is as heavy, like instrumentally as it is, like that chorus, like the chorus vocal is just so melodic. It's like that. I guess I kind of stole that influence from Alter Bridge. Miles Kennedy does that. Because Alter Bridge, if you take away Miles' vocals, is a really heavy band.
right,
And then you put his vocals back in, and it like
Creed.
takes the edge off. You know what I mean? And
Yep.
that was kind of what we were going for, I felt, with Chains, where it's like a really in your face tune, but just the little bit more melodic vocals take the bite off the
Yeah.
aggressiveness just enough
Totally.
where it makes it almost a little more consumable to the average listener.
That was another one for me, whereas like if this table is our range, I thought like Whiskey Lemonade was here and Chains was out here, and I was like, what are we doing, guys? Like, what's going on here?
How are these two going to be on an album
Um,
together?
Yeah, exactly. How are they going to coexist? And I don't know how we pull it together, but we did. I think it all sounds great. I think personally for me, my favorite song is probably Novocaine. I just really love the drum part, just heavy hitting
That is-
all the way through. The
Yeah.
fill before the second verse is always like my favorite to play.
Oh yeah, dude! In the video too, when you hit that,
Brad nailed
I got
that
chills,
shot, dude.
man.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and your drum part is just great on that song. I was just listening. Well, I guess when I was watching the video, and I had told you that when we got to the studio last week, I was like, God, that is a really well written drum part on that song. That's a fun one.
Yay, Rifki. Damn, I don't even know how I'm gonna answer right now, but I mean, I would have to say maybe Assassin. I was gonna initially say Disease just because that's like,
Because it was my idea.
well, it's my influence and stuff, but I like Assassin because it has a lot of elements of like, here's this really wonky, weird lick in the chorus for no reason. Well, it is for a reason because it's dank, but I like how we go. I remember like sitting in my house in New Brighton with CJ and working on that bridge part, and we have like this rhythmic thing of kind of like Leprous, one of a huge influence of mine, like Swedish or Norwegian prog metal rock. They're kind of more pop now, but that like weird delay part is kind of like a very carnival thing. So like it's just kind of like cool. Like you just kind of know where like these little inspiration things come from, like some band in Australia, some Norwegian band, and I mean the rest of it is kind of musy to me, and that's somewhere in Europe. I don't know.
Yeah,
where
that
they're from,
song
but
covers a lot of ground. It's a great
That is
track
somewhere,
to open the album with because it just kicks the door down.
Yeah.
And it's like
it's got
all
some
right.
wonky harmonies
here
in it
to-
and the vocals too.
Yeah, we did some cool stuff harmony wise, and that was not to go back to Avenged Sevenfold again, but we kind of stole, that idea from Jimmy, or at least when I was starting to write lyrics, I kind of had a Little Piece of Heaven type of theme in my mind or whatever, where it was going to be this, kind of like back and forth, chaotic, crazy relationship between an assassin and a sex worker, and how that dynamic of their relationship goes together and then collides, collides during the verses, it comes together during the choruses, and by the end of the song they're ready to strangle each other type thing. And
That sounds like
It
a
was
good
just-
movie.
it was just weird. Like that was another thing. It was just kind of weird writing lyrics more for story versus from experience, if that makes any
Yeah.
sense.
You
Be- trying to
didn't go
be-
through that.
Which one were you, the hooker or the assassin?
Yes. Absolutely.
That popped a little.
Whole time he's fighting with himself.
Oh, it hurts. Yeah, I don't know. I might stammer along just as bad as Rutten did for my answer.
That was
here.
hard.
I don't know. I think fire is my. No, I'm just kidding.
Bleed wasn't on the record, Clay.
It's still lonely. It'll always be
It's
lonely. We
lonely.
didn't.
Just because of Colin's drum solo at the beginning. No. I think honestly this is a little bit random, but like I think December grew on me during the recording.
December's
Like
definitely a sneaky one.
yeah, it was Whiskey Lemonade and December were like the two songs that I could not get lyrics down for. And I think December was the very last one. And I think I even
yeah.
wrote those lyrics the week leading up to me being like, okay, Clay, you have to go and track vocals.
I
now."
want to say that's what I remember too.
Because you could, like, when I first went in to start recording vocals for that, like, I think I spent the first hour just, like, even getting the melody figured out exactly how it was going to go up and down and transition from verse to chorus, because I had just written the lyrics and I had a basic melody in my head, but I didn't have it completely flushed out yet.
I would even dare to say that might be the best chorus on the album.
I
Yeah.
think so too.
I almost said that song for being my favorite just
Dude, why
because
didn't
of
you?
what you said, as far as like it kind of snuck up. All of a sudden, I'm like, man, I really like this song.
It's a mid-tempo, just straight up rock tune. It's a good guitar riff,
Good
the
pushing
rhythms
chorus.
there. The chorus is pushy. It's got a nice melody to it, and a great guitar solo. It just has everything a solid rock song.
I like the
needs.
element of freaking the verses. Me and Rifki feel so locked in that.
Yeah.
Like we always hit that like second verse where it really drags behind, and it's not much, but it's honest work. But that's always like one of my favorite.
It's literally like a two beat part of the verse.
I love that.
It's just like a little trinket that
It's
we
like-
dropped in there.
Yeah, just like you're
that
just like
stuff
kind
is
of
really
holding on
fun.
to your breath, and it's like, there we go.
Well, and that second verse is quick too. You know that
Yeah.
from chorus to chorus, that second verse is pretty quick, and then you guys kind of do it. It does drag just a little bit, and then bam, that chorus hits you right back in the face, and then just goes into a freaking gnarly guitar solo that CJ played on it. And I don't know, I think it's cool that we all have different favorite songs on the album, I guess, and we
It's
are
hard though.
That kind of shows like the diversity.
I would have thought
amongst
he would
us
have
as
picked
far as
other
music
side,
goes.
but like we all
That
really
was
like
the
what
other
we
one.
did.
Yeah, other side's another top one. I honestly though, like, not to call my answer bullshit because I do love Novocaine, but like, I feel like I kind of picked one because I knew that other people were gonna pick other ones. And,
Well,
you know, they're all 6 songs.
I think
so-
you just want
Yeah,
us to
wow.
down tune more.
What?
You know, and
You
I,
guys both picked the drop B songs, and I think you just want us to keep playing down
Kyle, I'm a
tune.
drummer. Do you really think I thought that far?
You were gonna.
well, that song's lower tune, so
Oh, drop me flat. Sign me up.
I better tune my drums to that.
Dude, I bet you will. You got to have like 3 kids
Kyle,
on the tour.
I
now.
just want to tell you that the next riff I wrote after the album was done was a drop B riff, just for you.
Goodness gracious.
yeah, and then I mean, the album closes off with just kind of a, you know, little more of a heartfelt anthem-y, you know, like, I don't know, it's like, to me, it's just like the perfect send-off to, all right, here's a little closure
Yeah.
for the album. There was all this chaos, and now there's just kind of a little bit of peace at the end of the record.
That's almost kind of how it felt this whole time releasing a full-length record, and it was just like chaos,
100%.
peace. And now we're really at that.
Now
That-
we've got about 3
Yeah.
more days before we start writing the next.
It's chaos.
I was going to say,
again.
where'd you feel the peace? Because Jesus Christ, we don't stop.
Or about the last week when I haven't been.
I feel like
okay, like the
Yeah.
album's about to drop. Like it's.
I feel like Clay and I have been going hard for freaking 8 years now, and we
Yeah.
haven't sat down for more than a couple
Well,
minutes.
I mean, we all have as far as our own, you know.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, I'm,
oh yeah,
you were playing in a band since you could walk, and Rifki's been drumming since he could talk, and
took me longer than most to learn how to walk.
Yeah, I didn't talk until I was 19, but
And
I
then-
got gigs right away.
Hey Mom, look what I gotta do.
Hey Tommy, is this a shuffle?
no, but it feels great to finally have the album out. We worked really hard on this record the past year and a half, and it's just kind of, you know, one of those things where it doesn't feel like it's ever going to come, or at least like the past year, there was moments where it felt like it was dragging on. And I know we'd have certain conversations like, man, you know, what is going on? Like, it just seems like nothing's really happening for the band. We just fall into these lulls, but like now the frickin' records here and there's shows on the calendar, and it just, you know, it feels like there's a lot of momentum, you know, going behind us right now, and we're working on a lot of content to back the record up, and
That does
it's just a
kinda
fun time.
brings me back to when we were in Kentucky working with John, and he was like, "You guys, like, this is a game of like hurry up and wait. So hurry the fuck up."
Yeah. Well,
and get
we
ready
had-
to wait.
we had
And
to
then,
have
like,
the album done.
literally like a year later, I'm texting John, and I was like, "Geez, you weren't freaking lying, were you, bud?" And he's like, "No, sir."
Well, when you
No,
have
I
an
wasn't.
album ready 9 months before its release, it was done, and we're just waiting because it's like just the optimal way to release it to keep your fan base engaged as much as it can be. But I mean, yeah, we
You
as
know,
the
and
years
there
go
was-
on, we learned a lot of patience because we got a lot of solid people in our corner. Like Brad Matala and John, our manager, and our families that are all wildly supportive, and
Bert, our sound guy, Bert, and
Chadwick Beverly Von Chatterson,
Chad, our lighting guy, like, and my brother Cal with, you know, all the stuff that he, you know, provides for the band as well. Just like, you know, we can't do it without a team of people. And Brett, you know, Brett Havens, he did all the, you know, the mixing and mastering, the production on the album. I mean, he's the reason the album sounds as good as it does. He did a phenomenal job on it. It takes a team. You know, it's not just a band on stage and a band in the studio. There's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
That keep the wheels turning down the road, and we certainly couldn't do it without all those people helping us. So
As a matter of fact, we should also probably make sure to thank your old man Jeff Dieters and Tank Nelson for both of those guys' support. There's a lot of people that like we couldn't have done this without. So
yeah, all of our parents have really contributed, and Andy and Teresa.
Yeah, my aunt and uncle.
Yep.
I mean, hell, Toddcasters are us.
Yeah, Todd showed up with guitars while we were recording, and he's worked on our stuff, and
Crazy.
You know, Bryce and
bringing
Bryce
here.
and Eric Hellerman and Colby coming out with their nice cars for video shoots,
their
making
nice cars for our video
metal
shoots.
sacrifices. Oh man, that was
that's
hilarious. That's a good story. Yeah.
Yeah, we might just before we wrap this up. So we're shooting the music video for Now or Never, and the idea was kind of this. You know, if you've seen the music video, you get the gist. But the idea was a car chase scene, and we wanted to bring back my brother Colby's Torino for the shoot because we had used it in a past video, so we wanted to kind of have a callback. And then Eric Hellerman, who owns the Next Door Bar, he's got a couple cool classic cars, and then our buddy Bryce Wildman has a cool newer Camaro, and we wanted to have this cool car chase.
Mind you, when I was talking to Hellerman about this when we were planning it, I was like, "Oh yeah, by the way, you got to dress kind of like a biker guy. Like you got to kind of try to look tough or whatever." And he's like, "I got to be in the video." And I was like, "Well, are you gonna let any of us drive your car down the road there, pal?" And he was like, "Oh, good point."
Glad he didn't at this point.
At first, I remember it just being a video where they're gonna race each other, and you know, we had like the central location of the shop, and then when Bryce and Todd show up with their black cars that look like undercover cops, like I remember mentioning, like, can we make that look like a car chase? And then, oh fuck, is this my fault? Like,
well, we had usually rotten.
We had kind of talked like doing a whole Fast and Furious type thing where, you know, one car, you know, gets away and
Sam's
wins
the chick with the
race. But anyways, so we're trying to shoot the scene where the cop cuts off the antagonist, who was Eric Hellerman, in his car, and then Colby, my brother in the Torino, pulls away, and that's, you know, kind of the storyline finish of the song. He pulls off into the distance. So anyways, we're shooting this scene. We do it. I'm riding in the car with Eric, and Adam, who was our video guy for this shoot, he was riding in the car with Colby in the Torino, and he was running the drone, and I was running the phone call. So we had a four-way phone call going on between all of us, and we were saying with us in our car, Colby in their car, and then Bryce in his car, making sure everybody knew what was going on, so we didn't have anything happen. And
good thing you did that. Huh?
Yeah,
safety first.
So we're shooting this scene, and the whole idea was Colby and Eric were supposed to be driving alongside each other. The cue was Colby was going to take off. As soon as Colby takes off, Bryce waits a couple seconds. He pulls up alongside Eric. We know he's there. Then he pulls ahead and cuts Eric off, and you know, everybody knows exactly what the timing is. Everybody brakes at the same time, no problems. So take one, nail it, no issues. We got it. And Adam's like, he's like, I like to do 2 takes on everything just because you know, the first one, I think we got it, but I don't know for sure. So we should do one more just for good measure. All right, first one went smooth, no problem. We'll do it again. So Colby peels off, Bryce pulls up, Bryce comes ahead, and he cut in a little harder than he did the first time. And Eric hesitated just enough as well. So it was like that kind of give of
Perfect
Bryce
storm.
coming a little bit
Yeah.
harder, and Eric hesitated just a fraction of a second, and he locks up the brakes, but not quite enough, and rear ends right in the back of Bryce.
I just remember
Still
you guys
hurts to
coming
watch.
back.
Oh,
I remember you guys coming back, and I was with Chad for a while, just like setting up the lights for the next shot.
Yeah, Monty and I ran into town for food and
Yeah,
beer or
yep.
something.
Yep, and the whole crew just walks in. There's like 8 guys, like Clay, Bert, Hellerman, Colby.
Everybody's head down.
And like, oh, how'd it go, guys? Like all excited because I was just pumped with how the lights were looking in there, and like, oh, I bet that went great. How's it going? And it looked like someone's fucking dog got shot, and I was like, what the? He's like, yo, you didn't hear? And I'm like, no. Go
What
outside, and then
happened?
I looked like
why
my
are
dog got.
you and your car crying?
yeah.
Well, because
Well,
my car isn't numbers matching anymore.
Yeah, that was, and I was in the back seat
Crying
of the
antifreeze.
car with him, and I was just like, no, it's gonna happen, and just like, yeah. And it was one of those
Brutal.
things. Like Eric was super cool about it. You know, he was obviously sad that it happened. He wasn't mad or anything, and
We
and
did
neither
give him a
was
free hat, people.
and
so
neither
don't
was
worry.
yeah, neither was Bryce. I mean, it was just an honest mistake
Well-
for what we were trying to do, and it was an unforgettable moment for both those guys and all of us.
Well, certainly, because album release show happens and I walk on stage and I'm like, I look at it, it's on the ground right at the front of the stage, like, oh. And then my first thought is like, is he making us take this on the road with us forever as like a reminder of what happened? And no, he had to
He was
sign
like,
it
no, you guys are gonna sign it, and I'm gonna hang it in my bar.
forever and ever and
so
ever.
he had the front bumper on stage. It was
Hell of a sport.
great.
Hell of a sport.
I mean, just a great guy. All
One of
those
the best,
guys are
absolutely.
awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was
Heller skin.
a unfortunate experience, but something we'll never forget as
Yeah.
far as being tied to this record and shooting music videos and stuff goes. That was pretty.
No bumpers are safe.
No more car chase videos, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
no
should
more
take it
classic
easy.
cars.
One and done on
We use junkers.
If you guys
want
want to keep seeing car chase videos, you got to buy a lot more records. That's all I'm saying.
But yeah,
Wow.
just to wrap things up here and bring it back around, we appreciate everybody's support, coming out to shows, buying merch, and coming out to the Next Door this past weekend and seeing the tunes live and buying the album. Streaming is one thing, but coming out and purchasing the physical copy, it just does a lot more for us, not just financially, but we put a lot of sweat into that thing. So we appreciate it when people come and support us that way. So thank you guys, and thank you to everybody that was involved with making this record. It was a blast, and we're just very excited that it's finally here.